Good evening. Welcome to this month's Town Administrator's Report. I'm David Watts Jr. and with me is our Town Administrator, Steve Mayo. Steve, welcome.
How are you, David? Good to see you.
So far,
We
we haven't seen the fourth
the four-Easter.
nor'easter.
Yeah, I actually did ban it, so we'll see what happens. I wish I had.
We'll see how powerful
I don't
you
like
are.
the snow, period, and I certainly don't want it tonight. And I think we're gonna get a little bit anyway.
Not on the second day of spring as of
Not
our
on
taping.
No, so done.
But the other thing about being the second day of spring is it's town meeting time.
It is town meeting time. Sometimes I feel it's always town meeting time. We're getting ready, but yes, we are getting into the throes of town meeting.
Okay, and just to let
Preparation
everyone
anyway.
know, because of the requirements in the charter,
Right.
town meeting will be beginning on Monday.
Monday, April 30th
Okay.
at 7 p.m. at the Galvin Middle School, in the auditorium there, the Veterans Memorial Auditorium. So be ready. Hopefully it won't be snowing.
And we should preface by what we're talking about on the warrant is not the final warrant.
It's not the final warrant. The warrant will not officially close, so to speak, until Friday the 23rd. So, there's still time to get in any actual articles that people have. But
March 23rd.
March 23rd. But I think we're pretty close.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And obviously being annual town meeting, the first thing that's going to come off is the budget.
Is the budget. I say we spend all year trying to get the budget. We get through Article 1 and we can sit down a little bit and we're good, yeah. And I think the budget this year is going to be very similar to last year's, really. I think we're going to continue on trying to place money into infrastructure and to our capital assets. And a little bit of a change this year is that some of the items that we were holding in the capital assets, capital article, like painting, HVAC repairs, roof repairs, I think, in the last few years we've been just stating that, this really is not capital. This is maintenance. It should be in the DPW budget, and we're migrating that into there with the hopes that, hey, we can really hit that $2+ million every year on capital, maintaining our town for future generations. And that's kind of, we try to do that every year. Luckily, the last few years, things have been a little bit better. Economy's a little bit better. The state money is okay. But we've handled some of our other obligations a little bit better. And, we do have reserves, and we kind of try to use those prudently. And we'll try to continue to step ahead, in a very methodical manner.
Right. And what does the state money look like this year?
Yeah,
I know it's a little early as usual.
And that really is a big problem in that, we have our town meeting April 30th. Some communities are having their town meeting earlier, and there will not be a state budget at that time. So we will not know, technically, how much money we're getting from the state. Now, for a town like Wakefield, where, 10% of our budget, let's say, is state money, maybe it's a little bit more. If we guess wrong, if I guess wrong particularly, it's still only 10% of our budget. So if I'm 90% of 10% isn't life-threatening.
Right.
If you're off and it's 50% of your budget, like some of the big cities are, that, if you're a Lynn, if you're a Lawrence, you're a Lowell, that's a big amount to make up. Here, listen, I always want to get more from the state, but still, it's not the end of the world. So what I do is I try to meet with our reps, and I do meet with our reps and senator, and I ask them a couple of questions, because there is a budget out there. The governor's budget, which they call the House 1 budget, the first budget, that is out there, and that says about $10 million to Wakefield for local aid. I try to figure out, is that a floor, first of all? And even better, would there be a local aid resolution, which is where the state basically says, you know what, we're guaranteeing you'll get no less than that. So there is going to be no state resolution this year on local aid. However, our delegation has stated to me that they think that this is the floor, at the 10 million, and maybe we'd get a little bit more in Chapter 70, which is for education mainly, a little bit more per pupil. I would also like to see more for special ed, and I think we'll talk about that a little bit later today. So I'm comfortable with these numbers that I'm working off of, and that kind of dovetails into everything else we do. But I always say the only number I know for sure going into the budget season is what is the tax levy for the town of Wakefield, and I can multiply that by 2.5% or add 2.5% to that, and I have that number straight. I don't know what we're going to get for new growth because we don't get that number until later in the year. I have an idea, and I don't know the state revenue. So we work with the finance committee, my treasurer John McCarthy, our town accountant Kevin Gill, and we really kind of, and the board of selectmen, and we really think about, and we kind of kibitz and say where we are. Last few years we've been pretty good, but it is. I remember getting the letter in 2008 or 2009 that, hey, we're going to cut your state aid by $500,000, which at that point was probably, 30, well, maybe not 30, 20, 25% of our state aid.
Sure.
And they cut it halfway through the year. So that's like cutting a million at the beginning of the year. You only have half a year to make it up. So these things are never easy, let's put it that way.
Well, and one of the budget items we've talked about in past years is the snow budget.
Yeah.
And this year, what has been somewhat unusual is we didn't have too much until very recently.
Yeah.
And we have been slammed with 3 major nor'easters in 2 weeks.
And now 4.
And now number
Now,
4.
Number 4 tonight.
And 2 more being tracked.
Yes.
How are we doing this year on snow
Well,
budget?
we were doing great up till 3 weeks ago. Snow and ice, the snow and ice budget is the one budget that on the town, one municipal budget that the town can overspend, exceed, and you can put the cost onto the next fiscal year without going to town meeting or what have you. That's the one budget, and that's a statewide issue. We call it a snow and ice overdraft. Last fiscal year, we carried forward 198,000 snow and ice overdraft. So we budgeted 750, we spent almost 200,000 more. I was feeling really good this year going into about 3 weeks ago. In fact, the DPW director, Rick Stinson, and I were talking about it. Then he came forward with the first one for 300,000. We're going to go for another one for 300,000. So we're looking at 600,000 in snow and ice overdraft that we'll have for this year. That'll go into next year's budget, so to speak. So that's 600,000 we've got to make up for within the budget. So, and that's now. A few years ago, we had that horrible winter. I think it was $1.1 million. Now we've been adding sporadically over the last 10 years to the snow and ice budget, creating a higher budget. 10 years ago, it was 293,000. Kind of an absurd amount for this town of this size.
Especially for the length of time that number had been out
Have
there.
it out there. So we've moved it up to 750. I'm going to modestly like to make a pledge that we move that up 50 grand each year over the next 3 or 4 years. And I think if we get to that million mark, the DPW director would like $1.1 million, $1.2 million. Maybe we will get there eventually, but I think $1 million is pretty good. Because most of the times your years are between 800 and $1.1 million with some crazy outliers. And what can you do? We cannot plow, right? That's the alternative.
This being
let
New
Mother
England.
Nature take it away. Mother Nature put it there. Let Mother Nature take it away. So that's a nerve-wracking part of the budget.
And since we're still on budget, let's go back to the special ed. I know it's a separate item, but let's talk about that request for extra money. What brought that about?
Well, I think what happened in this fiscal year here, we're always, when we're doing the budget, we're talking about July 1st of 2018 through June 30th, 2019. But in the current fiscal year we're in, over the summer, after the budgets are done and everything, a number of special ed cases came about. People moved into town. People were diagnosed. Young students were diagnosed. outplacement costs got higher. So I think maybe there were 6 or 8 high-cost special ed cases in Wakefield. And I think the school department has done a really great job about trying to manage those and trying to, make sure that the student is taken care of, giving a fair education, and that, we maintain a cost down. So that happened. So that really ballooned, probably an extra $400,000 or so of money that wasn't budgeted. Luckily, that came early in the year, and we knew early in the year. So superintendent and her team was able to lower, make cuts elsewhere to kind of soften the blow.
Yeah.
You couple that with the fact, and this is very important for people to understand, is that special education is not something that should just be predominantly funded by what your zip code is. There is an obligation of the state to fund 75%. It's called a circuit breaker, 75% of the cost of special ed after you get over a certain threshold. Okay, that has not happened. I think it's happened once in the last 10 years. And, our school business manager will put it in at 60%, 65%, maybe we get it, maybe we don't. So in this case, I think you can attribute 200,000+ of our funds down in Wakefield that should have been reimbursed by the state, that will not or may not be reimbursed this year. Now, which means that there's a deficit or will be a deficit in the school department budget for this fiscal year. Okay. Luckily, a few years ago, the town had the foresight to establish a special ed stabilization account for this purpose. I think we put maybe 400,000 into it. I forget offhand. So in that account, there is still about $170,000. We intend at town meeting to say, let's supplement this year's school department budget by taking out the $150,000 that we need out of the stabilization account. It needs a 2/3 vote of town meeting, and it's very important to do that, and to make sure that the budget is whole this year. So that is an article. It's kind of outside the budget. It's an article, but it does part and parcel talk about the budget, because now you have, or the town of Wakefield has, the same amount of students going forward next year in special education. So next year's special education budget is going to be increased just like this year's was. So that has to be accounted for in the budget process going forward. So that's part and parcel why, and there's been a school committee has been working very hard, particularly Dr. Smith and her crew with the finance committee, subcommittee on education, to kind of figure out how we're going to do this. So I think that you're going to hear that the school department's budget is going to come in at a higher amount, cognizant of the fact that A, we have the special ed bubble that came through, not let alone other costs, okay? And cognizant of the fact that the state, up till now, has not lived up to their obligation to cover 75% of special ed costs in the circuit breaker account. So I've talked to our reps and our 2 reps and our state senator who are all in on this and are all supportive, and will move forward. We may get some money this fiscal year. It won't come until after town meeting, but that's okay. We can hold it over. We may get more money in next year's budget from the state. That won't be known until after town meeting. That won't be known until June sometime. So if that happens and we have more coming in the fall, we can do the whole balancing out act on this, like we do in anyway in November. But I think we started by saying some of this is a little bit hard in handling your budget when you don't have all your numbers. So like I said, the one number we know is what this year's tax levy was. I can multiply by 1.025 to get 2.5%. That much is set. And then we
the
take
rest
it
is
from,
all
the rest is
leisure
all
domain.
The rest is all
magic.
Not magic, but it's many sleepless nights, I guess.
Seems that way sometimes.
Yeah.
The additional money you were just talking about, will they increase the money to the town educationally, or will that be a separate?
From the state?
Yeah.
I think we'll probably get a separate, circuit breaker comes in separate from Chapter 70 anyway. I think we'll get a separate influx of money. And it's kind of funny how that happens sometimes at the state level, is that the state senator and the rep will tell me, Steve, have a lookout. I just heard that there's going to be, $211,000 coming to the town. And, that's all wired in. So I've got to say, listen, treasurer, if you see 211,000 come in on the wire, this is good. This is ours. Get it quickly and put it over here. So it is kind of funny how sometimes that happens.
Right, right.
But those are good things. Coming in is fine.
Other financial things that aren't budget specific, at least not as far as the warrant is concerned, we have some contracts that are coming up.
That are coming up, yeah.
And which contracts are those?
We have 3 unions currently that our contracts expire on June 30th. We have the clerical union, which is think of all the administrative staff at Town Hall. We have the library union, and we have the DPW union, which is the really your guys that are and women that are out in the ground. They'll be out in the snow tonight plowing, and I say always putting the shine on Wakefield. These guys, what they do. So these are undergoing negotiations. We've had meetings with 2 of the unions. One of the unions we have not, and that is because their bargaining entity attorney has not been. One attorney left, a new attorney hasn't come in for bargaining, so they're a little bit behind the 8 ball. If they're not settled at town meeting, which is very possible that all 3 of them won't be, and that's happened before, we'll certainly have them done by November, and they'll be handled in November.
So they'll just be
indefinitely postponed.
Okay, all right. And the other one, which we talked about as a full show not too long ago, but is certainly going to engender a lot of discussion, is the public safety building.
Yes, the public safety building at this point in an unofficial warrant is Article 8.
Right.
And this is for the reconstruction of the public safety building. Now, we've talked about that on this show. We've talked about it at the Board of Selectmen. This is something that needs to be done. The public safety building, it's almost 20 years old now, when you think about it. And it'll be 20 years old by the time that this is completed.
Hard to believe.
It is hard to believe. It does not meet, first of all, the safety requirements for the citizens, and we can talk about that in a second, but it does not meet what we need to do as a community, particularly on the police side, to provide the citizens of Wakefield with the type of department and protection that they need. It does not. It doesn't have what we need to do that. And you can say, Steve, what are you talking about? Case in point, the entryway is abysmal. Let's just call a spade a spade. That was built. It's
dangerous.
It's dangerous.
Forget about abysmal.
Right, abysmal.
It's dangerous.
It's dangerous. That's what I meant. It's a better word. If you are a young or an older person running for whatever reason into the police station, and it's 2 a.m, okay, you are going to pick up a phone to speak to someone. The lobby is not open. It is not like other police stations where you run in and dispatch is right there, so you're looking at an officer either way. For some reason, this was not built that way, this building. That's going to change. This takes care of that.
Even if there is someone there, they have to get out, around, and come out.
Yeah. But there is some comfort in at least seeing a body, seeing a person, right?
Yeah.
Seeing a face, not picking up a phone and then getting almost, that sort of
Either
thing.
way, there is a delay from a police officer getting there to render aid in the front lobby if it's necessary.
Either way, but the second one is a very with the dispatch there. It's less. It's a minor delay, and that's like every place else. You're going to see an officer. Anybody chasing you is going to see the officer there. So hopefully they're not going to continue on. There's also a lot of policing has changed. Where there is a lot more of particular disciplines that are being mission specific, whether it's a domestic abuse, whether it's a family, whether it's mental health. we need those smaller locations for those officers to meet individually with people to help them.
But also the whole philosophy of policing
Yeah.
has changed in Wakefield from what it was
Absolutely.
when that building was built.
Yeah.
We have under the current leadership community policing, community involvement, which has already started to pay back dividends in just the general relationship between townspeople and the police department.
And you know, there are a number of people in any community, Wakefield not being dissimilar to others, that have some mental health problems, and that these people are coming to the police station on their own,
Right.
blowing off whatever steam they need to blow off. I think they know that this is a safe spot for them. You know, they know the officers, they know the leadership by name, and they know each other. And you know, this whole thing, it's keeping problems off the streets, and keeping it from escalating. So, you know, those things need to be done. Not to mention the fact that these windows don't work, the HVAC system doesn't work. You know, we have computers in rooms that shouldn't be, that need to be more environmentally friendly for the computer. You know, we can't lose our 911 system because of an overheating element over here. So there's a lot of things that need to be done and fixed in that building. And you know what? It's about time we do it. It's a bonding exercise. We have other bonds payments coming off. We could slide the public safety building in there. It's within 2.5. It can all work. So.
And that
it's very
actually
important.
raises another good point that will be discussed, I'm sure, at town meeting. What bonds are now being paid off?
Well, they're falling off over the next few years.
Right.
Public safety building number 1
Yeah.
will be done in another year or so. Woodville School falling off. Dahlbear falling off. Senior Center falling off. The 3 or 4 of these bonds are falling off right away. Library's already gone. So we're going to have those bond payments not being paid out anymore, and we can actually look at these other projects now and continue. So it does all work. We're gonna have to move some other assets around, kind of smooth it out as things fall off and go. And the other thing is that rates are lower now than they were before, so we should take advantage of that.
That one's going to be an important one.
Yes.
Trash, of course, comes up every year.
Trash
and
comes up every year.
One of the probably great things, I know not everyone likes the system that we have now, but that has allowed us to reduce our refuse cost by how much?
Well, we would have been up probably $200,000+ more, so probably 10-15% in costs than it would have been before. Interestingly enough, I think it did. People didn't like the one trash barrel at first. However, it did force people into recycling. You had almost no choice.
And have we
So
seen
people
a
became-
marked increase
We
in
have
that?
seen an increase in recycling. Unfortunately, the way the world has changed is that recyclable material isn't as accepted or needed as it was years ago. The market has gone down for that. Meanwhile, the market of getting rid of refuse cost has gone up. We do have more people, more tonnage. So this is one of those items that, yeah, I'm pleased that it isn't ballooned and taken off, but it is a particular amount that is going to be there. What is $1.8 million now, I think, for that, and the operation of the yard waste site. That's going to be there for a while. I think that we've kind of stemmed the tide of it going up exponentially, and the more that we do to encourage recycling and what have you, and the recycling market has gotten very picky too. Whereas everything needs to make sure it is recyclable. So if you throw in a soiled pizza box, okay, that's not recyclable, and they're very picky. They could turn back that whole truck and then we've got to dispose of it in the trash because they deemed it contaminated. So people have to be very careful in what they're putting in. In recycling, it has to be, cardboard boxes need to be broken down. Items can't be in plastic bags and recyclable. They want to see what it is. So it is that whole,
No
dynamic.
containers that have food.
They have food and rinse them out. I mean,
Yeah.
all of those things need to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we'll stop there because the one other thing, and I haven't heard if it's been scheduled or not, but it's obvious from the real estate in Wakefield that a lot of new people are moving in. Houses are being sold, people are moving in. Do we have a Wakefield 101 coming up in May
We
this
do have
year?
one coming up in May this year.
Okay.
I don't know the date off the top of my head, but it's going to be. I have it in my book, but there is absolutely one coming on this year in May.
So keep an eye out for
Yeah.
it.
It's a great event. It's the clubs are there, some of the town committees are there, the town departments are there, and you hear about of all these different walks of life why people came to Wakefield,
Yes.
what drew them here, what would they like to see us do,
Yes.
what we can do better, and so really it's an amazing day and actually pretty uplifting. I guess we haven't disappointed these people yet. I think they just moved in.
It's been a great experience
Yeah.
for the Human Rights Commission, for
Yes,
instance,
yeah.
to kind of get an idea of the different types of people that are being attracted to Wakefield, but also at the same time, people with some ideas we hadn't thought of yet.
Yeah.
So that's been good too.
So that will be certainly well advertised.
Okay.
And I know it's in my schedule, and it is in May.
So keep an eye out for Wakefield 101.
I will.
And it'll be at the library again.
It'll be at the library again.
Okay,
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, I think we'll hold the rest of the warrant for the next show.
Our next show, yes, it'll have to be closed up by then.
So from that point of view, we'll be talking about the warrant as it is constituted for April 30th.
Yes, yeah, that'll
Okay.
be set in stone at that point.
Fantastic. And there
Yeah.
will also probably be some special programming on, there'll be the financial forum before
Most
town
likely,
meeting.
yep.
And also possibly special programming on the changes to the public safety building.
Yes.
So keep an eye out at WCAT for those.
Yep.
Steve, thank you very much.
And stay safe tonight. I know this is airing on the night of the 4 Easter. Please stay safe. We do have a parking ban in tonight.
7 p.m. to 7
p.m. It's done for
Yep.
your safety and for the safety of our drivers, plow drivers. So I know it's inconvenient for some people,
Right.
but please stay off the road or get off the road as quickly as you can after that. We don't want to tow anybody. We don't want to have those issues, but it does make a difference going
Right.
forward.
And if you're seeing this on repeat, there may be one or two more.
Hopefully there aren't any more.
All right. Thank you very much. See you next month.
Thank you.